Good. Hello. I hope you are really, really well today and that you are staying safe. I want to give you a very warm welcome to the virtual village hall. I'm Rachel from I Printed That, and I've got a really special session for you today because it's actually my last Facebook Live of the year. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a treat. So you may see me on here demonstrating various different printmaking techniques. Well, outside of the virtual village hall, I teach workshops that cover just a few different printmaking techniques, and the most popular one is Linocut. So what I thought I would do, I would show you what goes on behind a behind the scenes on one of those Linocut workshops. So people either come online and do them over a Zoom class, or they also come to my studio in Rochester, and it's more of a one-to-one session just in a small group. But as a special treat, as I said, I'm going to show you how they work, how it works. I'm going to show you how to transfer an image, your design. So in this case, we are going to use a snowy winter scene. How to transfer that onto a Linocut tile. Carve it using specialist tools. I'll explain a little bit about where you can buy them from and sort of the costs involved. And then I'm going to show you how to print that. So let's get started. Are you ready? I'm going to start just by talking about our design. So if this is your first time doing Linocut, then I would go for something quite simple. So I've just got a snowy scene silhouette here, just very, very simple. And the main thing that you need to remember is to make sure that your design is no bigger than your lino tile. So make sure that it fits in it. With regards to the lino to buy, so there's lots of different lino on the market. This one here is sort of what we would call a traditional lino. So you can see it's Hessian backed, and if you smell it, it's got that lovely kind of linseed putty smell because it's got linseed oil in it. It's very hard and it can be quite difficult to cut. So what I would do, if you're just starting out, I would steer clear of this just for the moment because I'd hate you to get disheartened before you've even started. But that's more of your traditional Linocut tiles that you would buy. The one that I would suggest you use if this is sort of your first time, or you're just a beginner, is one like this. So this is called a soft cut lino. As you can see, it's very, very bendy. And someone once said to me, once you're using the tools, it's as though you're putting a hot knife through butter. That's how easy it is to carve. We've got two sides to this. We've got a smooth side and a rough side, and it's the smooth side that you want to be using. So that's our design and our lino. I'm going to demonstrate on the soft cut today as well. So that's the design and the lino. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop you down and I'm going to talk through the other tools that you will also need. Okay, so to cut our lino, we use these specialist cutting tools. Again, there's various different makes. This is a very level entry one, but it's perfectly acceptable. I'm going to be using this today just to show you exactly how acceptable it is. They come with various blades. Normally you get 5 blades. You'll get one, which is the smaller one. That's the one that I've got in here. And the larger the number, the larger the blade for cutting out larger areas. But I always start with the number 1 blade. That's why I've got it already in my tool. This is another type. It's a nice wooden one. It feels very nice. Sort of if you get into lino and you want to spend a little bit more money, then the wooden tools are really, really nice to use. This entry-level one, it's made by SD, and you can pick them up for between about £4 to sort of £6 from craft shops or from online companies. So they are the tools that we'll be using. We'll also need specialist ink. So this is a Linocut or block printing ink. Acrylics or watercolours don't work. You do need to use the special Linocut printing ink. You'll also need a roller or 2. So these are just the rubber rollers. They come in various sizes. This is sort of just a medium size. I have 2 rollers because one I use for inking up and then the other one I use actually for printing. If you don't want to buy 2, to actually do the printing work, you can buy something called a baren. They come, again, lots of different sizes, lots of different makes, but the back of a wooden spoon or a rolling pin or even a metal spoon will do the job as a baren perfectly well. You will also need just a piece of acetate or perspex, something that's flat and smooth. This is what we're going to put our ink on and then ink up. I always have just a piece of scrap paper just lying around because it can get a little bit messy when you're inking up. And finally, you're going to need something to print onto. So I've got a greetings card here to put my final scene on. Let's start then. I have my design and I've got my lino tile. I've drawn this in pencil so I can transfer it straight on. If you want to keep your image or you haven't drawn it in pencil, you can trace it and do exactly the same thing. So I have to flip this over onto the lino tile. Just make sure I get it in the right place. That's it. This is actually a little bit easier with tracing paper because you can see exactly what you're doing. But what I'm going to do is just start rubbing over the back with a pencil, transferring all the lines onto the lino tile. So it's just an HB pencil. And if I just lift it up, you'll see that that's already started happening. So I'm just going to continue doing this. So if you've just joined us, I'm taking you through what happened at a Linocut workshop. I teach Linocut. This is just sort of a basic introduction to Linocut workshop. I also show you how to add colours and make multiple colour layers in your prints. But today we're just going to start with the basics. This is just going to be a one colour print. I've chosen quite a simple design as well, which will add to the simplicity of this card. And even though it is a very simple design and it's just a one colour print, I always think there's something very special about a Linocut print. Whenever I go to an exhibition, an art exhibition, it's always the Linocuts that I'm really drawn to. I teach screen printing as well, but I think Linocut is possibly my favourite. I feel a bit bad saying that. I feel like I'm cheating on screen printing, but it's nice because you don't need an awful lot of equipment to do it. You can just do it sort of from your dining room table and get some great results. Just look, it's got a little bit more there to fill in, and that looks good to me. So now what I'm going to do is just to go around it, go over those lines with a Sharpie pen. This will just stop me from smudging the pencil marks when I'm cutting. So you may think, well, can I just draw the image straight on? Yes, you can, that's perfectly fine. But what I would say is just remember that whatever goes on here needs to be in reverse. So not such an issue if it's just a picture, although I do always think some things can look a bit odd if they're in reverse. I think it's always best sort of when they're printed the wrong way around. So I always think it's best to put whatever you're doing onto the tile in reverse. This is especially important if you are doing text. I can't emphasize that enough, because if you don't have the reverse text on here, then you'll end up printing back to front. So just putting my snowy castle in. Almost to the end. And there we are. So just to re-emphasize the point, make sure that whatever goes onto the tile is the reverse. Especially important for writing and text. Now you can start carving your tile. So with this particular tool, as I said, it's very entry level basic one, but it's perfectly acceptable. So I always start with a number 1 blade. Number 1 blade is the smallest. You probably won't be able to see it, but very, very small. It's just embossed just on here, the number 1. And I just loosen the silver part. It's got a paddle end which goes into the tool, and then your V end is the blade. So that's that nice and securely, number 1 blade. What I need to now do is start cutting, but before I start cutting, I want to think about where I want the colour to be and where I don't want there to be any colour. So this is a snow scene, so I've got lots of white here. It's also at night, so I'm going to keep my sky dark. I'm going to add some stars as well a bit later on. So this is dark, so this is going to be left. And then this is white all around here. So this will be carved away. The trees will be white. And all that's going to be left are the doorways and the windows. And that's the bit's going to take the ink. Because with Linocut printing, it's what's known as a resist printmaking technique. That means that the resist, or the parts that stand proud, the parts that you don't carve away, are the parts that take the ink and then print your image. It might sound a little bit confusing at the moment, but what we'll do, I'll start carving, and then when we print, you'll be able to see and hopefully get that in your head. So I'm going to start carving. So as I said, I want all this bit to be white, so I'm going to take these bits away. Always start with a number 1 blade, and I'm going to cut on the line, just like that, to take out these parts. So I'm just going to start in the middle actually. So as you're cutting, always cut away from yourself. So make sure that your fingers aren't there, but they're either at the side or below where you're cutting. I'm cutting about 1/3 depth of the lino. And as you can see, I'm moving the lino rather than moving myself. So as it's my last session of the year today, I thought it might be quite nice to just go through some of the things that you've done on the virtual village hall this year. It would be lovely to know in the comments some of your favourite sort of sessions, whether it's helped you to get fit, whether you've got into craft, maybe you've got back into craft, or you've learnt lots of new things. It's always lovely to hear how the virtual village hall helps you to relax, to stay fit, to stay connected. So please do drop something in the comments. I was actually looking through some of the sessions that I've done this year. I was quite surprised by how many I'd actually done. So we started off in January with some screen printed hand warmers. So they were little kind of sort of bird shapes that fitted just in the palm of your hand. We screen printed the fabric, then we sewed them up, filled them with rice, and then you can pop them in the microwave. Just warm them up just quickly so that when you're off on the walk with the dogs, or just for a bit of fresh air, then you can pop them in your pocket and just warm your hands up. So that was a really nice one to start the year with. I've done a couple of gel printing workshops this year too. So we did what's called a sort of an easy lithography one, where we used black and white glossy photos to get our images and give it some really kind of pop art type feel to our prints. And then just recently, I think it was sort of October time, I did another session on gel printing. So I show you how to make the gel plate and then how to use it. And that one was done using stencils. So it's nice to see how you can use sort of the same printing technique but get different results. So as well, in the summer, do you remember we had all the vintage tea party stuff? Can you remember that far? What sort of summer was it? It was awful, wasn't it? I know it's difficult to remember summer. There's some things I think, oh yeah, we were there. That can't be the summer though. The weather was awful, but yeah, it was summertime. So in the summer we did, I showed you how to use sort of botanical items to create napkin ring holders and also coasters using just air dry clay. And also I showed you the same technique but like potato printing. You might remember that. So we made personalized name markers, place name markers. We did the initial cut that out on the potato and then press that into clay, and they were really effective. They were really good. So any of the sessions that I've mentioned, if you didn't catch it the first time round, then you can watch them again. They're all on the Virtual Village Hall Facebook page. Please, well, you can either search or just drop me a line, just drop me a message in the comments which ones you would like to see, and I will go through them and I'll put a link in the comments. I'll just answer you showing the link so you can do it. You never know, you might have a bit more time over the next few weeks just to get your head around doing something creative. So there might be quite nice ones to do. You can always just save the link and then watch it whenever you want. So another one that we did in the summer, so I showed you how to use cyanotypes. That's a special type of printmaking which forms basis of sort of photography. It's a very early form of photography. And then I showed you how you can do something very similar just with plants that you've possibly got at home. So we used the pigments in plants, which a lot of them are light sensitive. We use those pigments to make what's called an emulsion, which we then painted onto paper, left to dry, and then made some prints that way. So once the paper's dry, you add leaves to it. You put leaves, place leaves down onto it, leave it in the sun, and then the sun will react with the paper where the leaves aren't covering, and it will create these gorgeous silhouettes. So I often liken it to when you're redecorating a room and you might have had some very loud wallpaper on the walls, and so you've got some pictures hung. When you take the pictures off, you're left with the mark of the picture. So it works on a similar idea. So they were the anther types. What else did we do? In the summer we did some mono screen printing. So rather than using actual screen printing equipment, I showed you how to use an embroidery hoop. And I think it was a pair of tights. Yep, a pair of tights and a credit card as a squeegee to then create some abstract mono prints. And the one that I did, I actually put into an exhibition and it sold. I was so chuffed. So that was the mono screen printing abstract landscapes. That was a really nice one. You can kind of pretend you're a real artist and just be really free with it with those ones. Okay, so just back to today. That's most of my outline cut. I'm just going to go in and cut this one as well. So just to recap, we're doing Linocut printing, and I've got a snowy winter scene here, and I'm just carving away the parts where I don't want the ink to go. So that's this part, which is all going to be snowy, and I'm leaving this part dark. I'm using a specialist tool that's quite easily available, and what's called soft cut lino. I'm using a #1 blade. And I'm cutting about a third, sort of a quarter to a third depth of the lino. I want to make sure that we cut out enough so that when we ink it up, all these marks that we've made don't fill with ink, but they stand proud. Okay. Going to be taking all this bit out in a minute. And if you notice, as I'm cutting, I'm making sure my hands are well away from the blade. It's very easy just to slip. And I'm also just making sure that I'm moving the lino. As you see, I'm moving it all the time, rather than moving myself and my body and getting into awkward angles that could be a bit dangerous. You could end up cutting yourself or spraining something. Okay, so I've just got this tree to do, and then I've just got these small parts to do here as well. So just carrying on with the recapping from the year, that sort of leads us now into sort of autumn, December time. And yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, I was on here showing you how to reuse fabric, either stuff that you've got in your stash or fabric that you've saved from, say, sheeting, or shirts or clothes that you love but you can't throw away because you love the fabric so much. So I showed you how to turn those into gift bags and do a screen printing technique to personalize them with initials of the person that you're giving the present to. Oh, and I wasn't concentrating and I've cut the wrong bit, but that's fine. We can improvise. So yeah, just to emphasize, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't stick it back on. I've tried, trust me, I've tried super glue, I've tried filling, but yeah, once it's gone, it's gone. So make sure you cut the right bits. Okay. So I'm just going to stop talking for the moment while I finish this off, so I make sure I don't cut any other bits that I don't want to. And yeah, if you're commenting today, if you're watching this on repeat or if you're watching it live, then yeah, please do put comments in. Let me know about all the great stuff you've done on the virtual village hall this year. And although I can't see any comments at the moment because of the way my camera is positioned, I will make sure that I go back through them and answer your comments, because I always love hearing what you're getting up to and what sessions that you've really enjoyed. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet now and make sure I only take out the bits that I need. The fiddly bits. Okay, that looks just about done. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a larger blade into my tool. No, I'm going to go for a number 3. So the larger blade will help me take out larger areas, and I've got quite a large area here to take out, so that's what I'm going to do next. I might go back to my number 1 when I'm doing all these fiddly bits, but I need to take quite a bit out now. So I've gone for a number 3 blade, and what I like to do when I'm cutting is to, and taking out large areas, is to cut sort of with the image, because what I really like is they call it noise. So it's all the bits that get left, and it relates really well to this because it is a snowy scene, because as we know, snow has dips in it, it might have footprints in it, it may have, you know, just where the wind has blown a snowdrift in, you can get all of these undulations. So that's really what this is going to help us to do. So when I print, I'll be able to show you a little bit better. But so I'm just going to start. Oh, I've just noticed a few bits that I didn't take out. Just going to start taking out. So I'm doing it very, very slowly just to start, so I get my line all the way along, and then I can speed up a bit. Now it's here that you really want to be careful that you don't cut yourself, because the larger blades do tend to be a lot sharper, so just be really careful. And I'm imagining that my snowdrift comes something like this, and then I'm going to have it come in from this side as well. I've still got to take all of the house out and the trees out. but I'll make sure they're done a little bit cleaner because I want to give a slight difference between the foreground and my houses and trees. You'll find as well that it's very difficult to achieve kind of a random effect here. You've really just got to go for it. I always find that if I try and sort of get maybe, you know, a little bit here that's raised and a bit here, it never quite works. You've really just got to go with it and just embrace what happens. Some print artists like a very, very clean background, or where they're taking out large areas, which is absolutely fine. It really is about preference. But I think one of the things that really attracts me to the Linocut print is kind of the motion and the texture that you get from creating these, all this noise. Clear that away. So I'm also doing this quite a lot quicker than I normally would. Okay, so that's most of the snow cleared out. I'm just going to go back in with the smaller blade and take these tiny bits out that I missed. And you'll see that, like most printmaking techniques, it really is all in the preparation. This bit takes ages, just like when you're screen printing, it does. You know, it's all the planning bit, the carving, the setting up. That's the bit that takes the time, and the actual prints tend to take seconds. But it's all worth it. It's worth the wait. It's worth all the concentration. So I'm just using my smaller blade still to take out these smaller bits. And any lino that's left here that takes the ink, because I'm using a smaller blade, you're going to get a slightly different texture. So I'll try and make it a little bit clearer than the foreground. But if there is some texture, there'll be a bit more of a contrast. And I'm now wishing I hadn't put quite so many trees in. But if you're okay just sitting watching, then I'm okay just carving. I hope it's as therapeutic for you watching as it is for me carving. With my workshops, you know, some people come in, they're really stressed, they might have had a really hard day at work or a hard week, they might have really stressful jobs, but it's so lovely to see they sit down, they transfer an image and start carving, and then just suddenly their shoulders relax, their breathing sort of slows. It just does show you that, you know, doing something creative, something a bit more mindful, away from screens, it really can just sort of take you somewhere different and just help you to relax. I don't know about you, but over this past year, creativity has just been such a sanctuary for me. Well, the past 2 years, sort of 18 months, it's been such a sanctuary. Really, really needed it. And it's so lovely that so many people have sort of found craft again, or have sort of, you know, had the time and the sort of the confidence to have a go, which is great as well. Okay, just use my larger blade because I'll take that bit out, try and get that bit out a bit quicker. And because I've cut in opposite direction to this, any bits that get left will create a good kind of, will sort of go with the way the building is upright and then the way the snow forms around that mound. Back to my trees. I say I do love the lino as much as the actual print often. I think that you know, these ones look really flat, but once you start cutting out, then it has so much texture. It's like some of the Japanese wood blocks which work on a similar principle. The printing blocks are sometimes, you know, just as beautiful as the prints themselves. And the tools as well, the tools are just absolute work of art. They're not some plastic thing like I'm using here. So if you do get a chance, just if you have a look up sort of woodcut, Japanese woodcut block printing on YouTube, there's some amazing, I mean, the technique is amazing. And I mean, you think this is taking a long time, the time taken to make up the different blocks with the different colours, and then even the printing, you know, itself is a real technique in itself. This must be a very old castle because the windows a bit lopsided. Okay, so I'm going to go with my final tree, and then I've just got a couple more houses to take out.
So I'll go back to my larger. I might actually, that's a 3. I might just go on a 2. I need something just slightly smaller to make sure that I don't cut out anything I shouldn't here. So I'm just going to go with a number 2 blade. Again, cutting away from myself, keeping my fingers away from the blade. And I'm just cutting in the direction that the building stands, so I'm cutting vertically. And as you can see, I'm not cutting from here outwards because there's a chance that I might sort of clip my edge here, so I'm using the edge as my starting point. If I do knock any of these out by mistake, it's not a big deal, but if I go through this bit, then I think it will really notice. I mean, luckily I think perfection's overrated, but you don't want it to look a mess, a complete mess. Okay, so it's just checking. I'll do a test print anyway, but I think I might have to take a little bit more of these out, but we'll do a test print. But I will just take this one out, and then I think we will finally be ready to print. And the great thing is you can get multiple prints off of this, and with this particular lino, it doesn't tend to break down. So I mean, really just thousands of prints if you really want to. The inks that I'm going to be showing you are water-based, so they come off just with just a little small bit of washing up liquid and just warm water. And then if you wanted to change the colour of your design, then just go in with a different colour. Right, I'm just going to be quiet for a second because I just need to concentrate on this bit here, make sure that I don't cut the wrong bits. Just make sure I've okay, I think that was just a tiny bit more just to take out here. Around the door. As I said, I think there's some bits that are, these are possibly a bit large, but let's do a test print and then we can see if any bits need working on. So I'm just going to clear my surface. So you want to make sure that you've got a flat, smooth surface. Make sure that all the lino, the little sort of lino filings are out the way. We use a piece of acrylic or perspex, anything really that's flat and that is smooth. I just need to grab a piece of test paper. Here we are, so just a piece of scrap newsprint. So to print, it's almost, you know, a technique in itself, and lots of people put too much ink on. So I start with a piece about the size of, you know, a good kind of juicy olive, and then using your roller, start just spreading that out, moving the roller backwards and forwards, left and right. And you'll notice that it's very rippled at this point. What you want to achieve is a solid surface, and as lovely as it is to, it's very therapeutic to roll out the ink all over the plastic. The idea of this is to get a good solid covering, very even covering of ink on your roller. So bear that in mind. So make sure that it does a 360-degree turn, and also you don't need to press very hard. If you press too hard, you see the roller isn't really moving around, so really you're just supporting the roller. So I've got a squeaky one. And you'll notice now that that's more of a solid texture. Okay, so I'm happy that I've got enough ink on my roller. I put a piece of paper down so that I don't get my table messy, and then just start applying the ink. You don't need to press very hard. You're just transferring the ink from the roller to the lino. I'm just going to pick a little bit more up because I've got a very large coloured section. And I want to make sure I go all the way down to the bottom because I want to catch all these bits that didn't get totally cut away, so it adds texture to my snow. So make sure I one last sweep. Move my printing plastic. Take my paper for my test, lay that on top gently, and then just using a clean roller, so make sure it's a clean one, or you can also use the back of a spoon just in a circular motion, or you can also buy a baren, what's called a baren. And then sometimes I like to stand up for this actually, so you get all your weight behind it and just press really firmly. Make sure you go all along the sides, get into the corners. Pressing nice and firmly, but without moving the paper and moving the lino tile. And then lift your paper to reveal your print. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with that. I think I will possibly just work into this a bit more, so I'll clean this off, dry it, and then just using a number one, just maybe take a little bit of that out because this tree looks a little bit scrawny, so I just need to add some more leaves. Maybe just take a little bit more out of that, but on the whole I'm really pleased with that. So that can just be put onto a card. So if you wanted to ink up again, I'll just quickly show you that. So I've done all the hard work, so all I'm doing is just taking the ink from the plate to the roller, putting the ink on the tile, can be a little bit more difficult to see where you've been. And then making sure that you've got your card the right, so you're going to print on the right side, so it's that side. Actually, it doesn't matter so much, does it, if it's a landscape one, but if it's a portrait one, then make sure you definitely get it on the right side. Stand over it to position. And again, using a clean roller, roll all along the edge, making sure that you've got clean hands, so don't touch this if you haven't. Make sure I've got a clean roller. Nice and firmly. Lift off for your card. So as I said, you can make lots of these. If you want to go with a different colour, then just wash it, make sure it's totally dry, and ink up with another colour. See, I told you it's all in the prep. Takes just seconds to print, and yeah, quite a while to get it going. And what also I would say is that with this Linocut ink, you do need to leave it to dry for sort of at least sort of 24 to 48 hours. It's got quite a long drying time, so make sure you do that before you put them before you write them and put them in the envelopes. So that was quite a long one today, wasn't it? I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you're still there. It's been so lovely to show you how to lino cut and to print your own cards. So that just leaves me to say thank you ever so much for watching. However you're spending the next few weeks, whatever happens, please stay safe, make lots of great memories, and I will see you in the new year. See you soon. Bye. Take care.